Hi friends, happy Friday. I thought today was the perfect day for a learning sesh. So grab your pens, your joints, your dabs, your bongs, your edibles, whatever it is that you want to enjoy while we learn about all things cannabis. Today, I'm enjoying Fluent's Perla CBD because I have some things to do after this. So I need to have a clear mind, not quite ready for that euphoric effect yet. Cheers. What we are talking about today is the M.O.R.E Act. The M.O.R.E Act stands for the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment Expungement Act. Whew, that's a mouthful. Let me tell you a little bit about the history of the act before I tell you what the act itself says. The history of the act was introduced to the Senate and passed by the Senate on November 20th, 2019. It was introduced by Senator Kamala Harris, who is now obviously the candidate for vice president. It's kind of ironic that Kamala Harris introduced this act. Kamala Harris used to be the district attorney for San Francisco, and as the DA, she prosecuted over 1,900 marijuana cases. In 2010, she also actively fought against the legalization of recreational marijuana. However, hopefully people change and learn, and that's just what I'm going to assume happened here. The House is scheduled to vote on this act. It was supposed to take place next week, but I learned this morning that it has been postponed, unfortunately. Hopefully this is voted on by the end of this year after the elections or early in 2021. Now that you know a little bit more about the history of the act, let's talk about what the act itself says. The act decriminalizes cannabis on a federal level. What does that mean? Does it mean that cannabis is now going to be legal if this passes? No. It just means that it's decriminalized, and it is up to the states to decide whether they want to make it legal or not. It means the federal government is going to get out of the state's way. Now let's talk about the E in the M.O.R.E, the expungement. Expungement means that if you are currently serving a sentence for a nonviolent cannabis charge, you would have the opportunity to have your sentence reevaluated, possibly vacated, and your records would also be expunged and sealed. If you have already served your time, your records would still be expunged and sealed, allowing you to proceed in the future without that limitation on your record. Now let's talk about the O, the opportunity, and the R, the reinvestment. The act would also provide a grant to help people that have been affected by the war on drugs, typically minorities. It would provide learning programs, mentorship programs, job training, anything to help along the way and to help you with things that have maybe been hindered because of your sentence. And it also creates a program to make sure that this is being followed. And finally, it would create a 5% tax on any cannabis products. It's a federal tax, but the money from that tax would then be put into a trust. And that trust would, again, go to help people who have been unfairly affected by the war on drugs, again, typically minorities. So it's an amazing act. It would do so many things. It would balance what we're seeing in the state level at the federal level. It would take people that are making millions of dollars for cannabis and get people out of prison for the same thing. So very, very, very important. And it's a huge step in ending prohibition and ending the war on drugs. But what does it mean for the cannabis community? It means a bunch of things. It means that small businesses that are in the cannabis space will have access to loans. It means that veterans will be able to go to their doctor at the VA for a cannabis recommendation. It means that people like me and minorities will have opportunities to get into the cannabis space. It means that we can have a small business loan for a cannabis business. So not only does it help fight the war on drugs and it help rectify the war on drugs, it will help small groups like myself get into the cannabis space, and patients have easier and better access to their medicine. This is a huge step in our history. It is the first chance at ending prohibition. And while it may or may not pass, the National Organization for Reforming Marijuana Laws, feels we have a good chance. A lot of nays have been turned into yays, but it is still an uphill battle. Now that you know more about this, it's something that you can share. It's something that you can talk about. Listen, cannabis is fun. Cannabis heals us. It helps us. I'm not a huge political person, but when you use cannabis, you have to be. You have to know about this stuff because right now we're not living in a fair world. Cannabis is not a fair space, and it should be for everybody involved. And this is the first step towards that. So I hope you guys learned something. I know it's a lot to take in. I'm going to be sharing my notes in my stories. I'm going to save those in my profile as a highlight so that you can access those. And then as this vote gets closer, we're going to talk about it more and talk about how you can contact your congressman to influence and to make it known that you want this act passed. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend.